Less than 39 days before Christmas, there's some perspective for you. Scammers are hungry for blood. Family and friends of former Pretoria Rugby Club chair Jaco Pedersen still reeling following his murder. Pedersen was ambushed when trying to view a bakkie on Sunday. The vehicle was advertised on Facebook Marketplace. Let's get you some advice this morning on how to deal with all things online shopping. Of course, we're having this conversation because it is that time of year. Craig Pedersen is a digital forensic cybercrime and fraud expert, and he joins us this morning. Craig, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for coming on. I want to begin with this specific case surrounding the murder of Jaco Pedersen. And as the details continue to emerge, it's incredibly shocking just how it unfolded, him trying to buy a bakkie on Facebook Marketplace. I'm sure you know the details around it. What stands out for you on, where things went wrong insofar as this transaction was concerned?
Michelle, thanks for having me on this morning. If I'm allowed to be brutally honest, I think the thing that surprises me most is that people have forgotten that it's barely 10 years ago that Alwyn Cowley was murdered in Cape Town under exactly the same circumstances, selling a vehicle over Gumtree.
Sure.
It's unfortunate. I'd love to say it's a unique incident, but the tragedy of it is that it's not. And the circumstances that are created in online marketplaces are conducive to luring victims out, whether it's to sell a car, buy a phone, view a property. It allows the cyber criminal or conventional criminal to actually set the stage and control the dynamics of when and where and how the meet is going to take place. And I think we've become so engaged with the online world that we have forgotten that there are intrinsic risks.
Yeah.
And we've become too trusting.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to say it does feel like, you get a false sense of security. And I wonder, how much of the pandemic period has played into that false sense of security, because there was a long period of time where online shopping was the only way we could do any shopping, right? And so that's how we've been transacting for many, many years. That false sense of security, though, is incredibly dangerous, as is the case here.
Oh, absolutely. Since the lockdown period, if you look at e-commerce in South Africa pre-lockdown, it was in many ways still lagging and very slow to get to market. One of the big inhibitors to e-commerce in South Africa has always been delivery. We don't have an effective postal service. Through COVID, we saw the sudden explosion of two-wheel kamikazes known as delivery divers for Takealot, Mr. Delivery, Uber, and they're just everywhere. And the immediacy has been added into many aspects of e-commerce. So people have adapted to that because you can go online, order, and have your grocery shopping delivered within an hour. You can order food within 20 minutes. You can have parcel deliveries done back and forth. So people have become a lot more trusting of that environment, and it's become normal to look to the online space before you look to conventional retail channels. Everybody likes a bargain.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you add into the mix the social media aspect to it, people are going online, they're looking at a profile and saying, well, I can see his profile. I mean, he's on Facebook. He can't be a criminal. And that's the mindset. But then you have people like Thabo Bester who lured women and raped them over social media platforms. That's what he used as a tool to lure them.
Yeah.
You cannot believe just because there's a profile photo on a Facebook page that profile photo is actually the person you're communicating with. You also have no idea what's going on in their world, in their mind, in their lives, and what their intention is. So you do still have to be prudently cautious when engaging with people in the online space.
Yeah, this is what we teach our kids, right? As they venture very slowly into the online space, that a profile photo means absolutely nothing. Trust nothing that you see on social media.
100%. And this absolutely cannot be overemphasized enough to teenagers and children as they're starting to become more independent. They're wanting to sell their old PlayStation over Facebook. They're wanting to upgrade their 50cc motorbike, get something a little bit faster, trade in a trendy pair of sneakers that they had for something else. They're starting to come into their own and make those decisions for themselves. But we've still got to guide them through that process. And we've got to teach them that it's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from a deal, no matter how good it sounds, no matter how much the person on the other end of the line is trying to pressure you, telling you about other keen buyers that are on their way right now. You can just say, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Walk away. There will be other deals and transactions. And if the circumstances for a meetup, especially with something like a car, if you're going to go buy a car, the person who's selling it to you knows that you're on your way, knows that you probably don't have transport, and knows that you either have the money with you or a phone with you that can log into a bank account and transfer that money. So you're going to them on the wrong footing already. It's their choice of place, their choice of time, and they know you're going with sufficient money to buy that vehicle.
Yeah, it's essentially just the perfect trap, and incredibly scary, describing it in that way. Craig, there are also, outside of this devastating story involving Jaco Basson, you've mentioned Thabo Bester as well. There are a whole range of scams of pretty much every kind of nature on social media, right? People being lured into investment schemes, people being convinced to transfer large sums of money to this person they've met online who is their soulmate. And there's no recourse, right? In our country at the moment, there's absolutely no recourse. What does it look like around the world?
Well, okay. So there's two elements to it. Firstly, from my interactions with colleagues around the world in similar positions, we're not alone. Every police department around the world has got a digital forensics backlog. All of them. I'd love to think it's only us, and for a period of time I did, but it's not. Digital is growing at a rate faster than law enforcement can keep up. It's a highly specialized skill set. The equipment, the tool sets that we use are incredibly expensive, so the barrier to entry to the market is quite high, plus the years of training and experience that you need. So around the world, everybody's struggling with this problem, and technology is advancing every single day. A year ago, nobody gave a damn about ChatGPT or AI. 10 years ago, people still had fax machines. Technology moves quickly, and law enforcement has got to adapt and move with it. Now, in South Africa, we do have a modicum of protection in that we have the Cybercrime Act 19 of 2020, which was implemented 21. And the Cybercrime Act is the first piece of proper, meaty legislation that we have that does classify online fraud and misrepresentations in the online space and the use of computerized technology to commit fraud. So you definitively have a recourse. If you have bought something online and suddenly the person on the other end says, haha, not delivering, sucks to be you, and just blocks you, you can, of course, go to the police station and open a charge of theft under false pretenses. You can open a charge of fraud if there's been a material misrepresentation or forged documents or a forged proof of payment. So you do have the recourse. However, one's got to be very tempered and realistic. Let's break that down quickly. So you have a recourse to law, but is it going to get you your money back? No, it's not. If there is a criminal asset recovery, you're probably looking at a 2 or 3 year period, which is why most people, when it comes to smaller cybercrimes where they've lost a few thousand rand, 2,000 rand, 5,000 rand, I'm not saying that's a little money, because to some people it's a lot of money, but they write it off because they think, oh, well, even if they do find the guy, which I doubt they will, it's going to take 3 years and I may or may not get the money back. Why bother? Now that's where the actual problem lies. If policing works and is statistically driven, so if people are not coming forward and reporting cybercrimes, then the ivory tower that is management will look down upon it and say, well, there isn't a cybercrime problem, we don't need resources, we don't need more labs, we don't need technical skills, and we don't need more investigators. It's only when the numbers come forward and the scale of cybercrime can be seen that we can get attention paid to it. If I may bring in one other thing, Michelle, what people underestimate is the scalability of cybercrime. If I'm going to go online and I'm going to create a fake profile, I'm going to put up a car that doesn't exist and sell it for 50,000 Rand and try and get somebody to pay me a deposit on that car. Why would I only create one profile? If I'm going to do one, it stands to reason I may as well do 10.
Sure.
If I'm going to do 10, I might as well do 20. It's only time. It's not costing me major money in data. It's no more effort than I'm putting in on one profile, but I've extended my reach in terms of victims tenfold.
Sure, it's scary.
And my potential return by tenfold.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely scary. And of course, let's not forget there are people who do this for a living, right? So I could be online creating these profiles all day long. And of course, it's not just about the physical harm or the harm to your pocket, the money you might lose, Craig. It goes further than that, right? Because often there's sensitive information involved. So perhaps I might reveal my ID number in some sort of form that's expected of me if indeed, for example, I'm going to buy this car. That's also where the problem lies, when these criminals have that personal information and who knows what they can do with it.
Okay, you're actually making all the right points this morning. One of the important things people forget is that the financial loss is not the cost of that crime. It's not. If somebody loses 20,000 Rand on a fake investment scam or a fake loan scam or buying something that doesn't exist online, the loss is not the 10,000 Rand or 20,000 Rand. Where did the 20 grand come from in the first place? How are they going to replace it? Can they replace it? Are they now going to get into debt because they don't have it? We've seen people where marriages break down because one party invested part of their pension funds or their life savings into a non-existent crypto scam that turned out to be rubbish and nothing more than a scam, and it literally leads to divorce. We've seen families broken apart completely by pyramid and Ponzi schemes where they've gone and lauded the benefits of the scheme to family members who've invested and then look to them when the scheme inevitably implodes. So the ripple on and the knock-on effect is enormous, and at the same time, where's the money going? Is the 20,000 Rand someone just scammed you out of going to pay their food, electricity, and water bill and their rates and taxes this month? Or is it going to buy another laptop so that they can further the enterprise and further what they're doing? Is it going to buy drugs and broaden out the criminal enterprise? Are they going to start laundering the money? So the money that's lost trickles back into the illicit economy and actually feeds it and encourages it to grow. And that is why we have such a big organized cybercrime problem in South Africa.
Yeah. Couple that with the fact that few people report and it's like a wildfire, right? So Craig, I started our interview by saying it's 39 days to Christmas. It's that time of the year. We've got Black Friday coming up as well. Give us a few pointers so we can end this interview on a bit of a positive note. What can I do to protect myself? For example, if I'm going to view a car that I'm going to buy on Facebook Marketplace, perhaps I can meet the seller at a police station, for example. But what are some of the other points that I can do for online shopping when I'm going to a mall to protect myself and my family?
Okay, so let's quickly go through a couple of the top ones. Number one, anybody selling you something online or engaging with you over WhatsApp or Facebook wanting to sell you something that sends you a copy of their ID document as a sign of good faith. Block their number, tell them to get stuffed immediately. There's no need to do that. It's out of character, and 90% of the time it's a scammer. Just walk away immediately, because you don't know that the person whose ID document you received isn't perhaps the last person that was scammed. It's not necessarily the same person you're talking to. If you're going to buy something chunky like a car, do the right thing. Meet them in the parking lot of a police station. Preferably meet them at a second-hand car dealership. Walk inside the door, grab a salesman and say, look, we're buying and selling the car. Why don't you supervise the transaction, see we do the paper correctly, and if we have to pay you 1,000 rand for your time, we'll pay you 1,000 rand for the time and safety that goes with it. That is better than the repercussions of it going wrong and the seller taking a fake SMS payment and releasing the car and the papers, and then he's really stuck because he can't even report the car stolen because he doesn't have the paperwork anymore. So use that as a safety net. If somebody's going to pay you money for anything, if they're buying something from you, the SMS doesn't count. It's worthless. It's rubbish. Delete it. The only thing that counts is when you can log into your bank and you can see that your balance is increased by the appropriate amount of money. The proof of payment, the SMS that you get, ignore it. It's worthless. The money must reflect in your account as an available balance. Otherwise, you haven't been paid, and that's the bottom line. It does not matter where the person's from. If they're from the other side of the country, scammers will always tell you they're far away from you and they're sending a friend. Then they'll send one of these e-hailing drivers to come and fetch the laptop, the phone, or whatever. The answer is no. We meet in person, we do the transaction at a shopping center, in a crowded place, at a police station, etc., or there is no transaction. And it is that time of the year. People are upgrading their cell phones, selling their old ones. There's a very brisk trading market out there, and people need to be hyper aware that the person you're talking to on Facebook, not necessarily the person you think it is. Insist on having a video chat with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And physically seeing that person face to face. You do not ever go to meet anybody for any transaction without telling somebody else where you're going, when you're going, who you're meeting, and doing a safety check-in when you get there and when you leave.
Some important pieces of advice there. Craig Pedersen, let me thank you for your time this morning. The bottom line, be incredibly circumspect. Craig is a digital forensics expert joining us this Thursday.